Hi, I'm Joe from As the Joe Flies,
And I'm Leslie from Trips with Tykes.
and welcome back to Disney Deciphered. So, I am fresh back from Travelmation's annual retreat 2025. It was a blast, the 10th annual retreat ever. And so, wanted to do a little trip report about that. Before we get started, we do have a new Patreon subscriber to thank, Leslie. So, please, who do we have to thank and what is Patreon?
Yes, today we're thanking new Patreon supporter Mary Jane. If you want to support the podcast, you just go to patreon.com/Disney Deciphered. And there you can sign up at different support levels and you get all sorts of bonuses, including our unfiltered episodes, trip reports in real time, just like Joe put out during his trip, and lots of other things, membership in our Facebook group. So thanks so much to everybody for supporting and to our newest supporter.
Yes, thank you so much. One thing, I don't usually love to do this, but Leslie, it has been maybe 4 years since we've updated our tiers. So we will probably do that at some point this year, just for the cost of inflation a little bit. If you are a current Patreon subscriber, though, don't worry, you'll be grandfathered in at whatever rate you're supporting at right now for the rest of your life, just like even people who no longer support us on Patreon are still in our Facebook group. We try to be as big of a tent as possible, and as always, we really thank you all for your support. It really does help to keep us going emotionally and mentally and a little bit financially as well. So let's get to this trip report. Did want to talk a little bit about the retreat itself, Leslie. Travelmation, I have to admit, even though as like a not a big spectacle kind of guy, they do quite a job of doing the spectacle. I'm curious. I know you see my stories, but I also know that you follow Travelmation as well. I mean, what does this retreat look like to you as like an outsider?
I mean, definitely looks like a big party. And I mean, I've been, of course, to media events and stuff for the influencer, blogger, writer side of things. So it looks like the travel agent version of that, which like maybe is even a little more high energy because I think travel agents are more high energy even than influencers in the aggregate.
Couldn't be me, Leslie. Could not be me. But yes, I am. I am the outlier in the group. Typically, I will say that the one thing I really do not love about Travelmation retreats, Adam, you're probably not listening, but if you are, any of you Travelmation agents out there, I hate dressing up. I brought multiple potential outfits because I was going to have to dress up multiple times. Ended up wearing the same suit both times because I couldn't get it to work. The worst thing, Leslie, is bringing clothes that I'm not sure I'm going to wear and then not wearing them because once again, just use the half day carry-on duffel bag. I said that in the trip report already. And so brought some extra clothes that I didn't need, brought an extra pair of shoes that I didn't need, Leslie. That was pretty painful for a carry-on only type person.
Yeah, we're both team carry on, at least for like business trips that are shorter than a week. And so it definitely looked like there were a lot of outfit changes required to attend that retreat. So I feel your pain, but glad you were able to get into the carry on. But it's hard. I actually think in some cases it's harder for men because you have that big suit and the big shoes. Whereas women, sometimes the clothes are like far skimpier and packed better.
Yeah, and Leslie, today I learned, well, technically last weekend, I learned how to use a steamer. I was like my plan was to iron and I was going to be all set. Actually, now that I think about it, I bet you the laundry room had an iron, but I was all ready for that and then opened up my closet in the contemporary garden wing room and it was just a steamer. And so had to text my wife. I'm like, am I supposed to put it on the floor or am I supposed to leave it hanging? So anyway, everyone is throwing their phones out the window in disgust at my lack of ability to steam things. Okay. I do all the laundry at home, as regular listeners of the podcast know. I love myself some laundry, do not love myself some ironing and steaming, and so had to get over that. So there was a lot of events during the retreat. There was like the main events that like everyone goes to, and then there's the trainings, and there were some other events that I had to attend just due to like my level of sales and stuff. So, but I still got to go to the park. So what I want to talk about today is like top 5 things that I would recommend that I did on my trip that I would recommend to others. Did still, before we get to those, want to say in general, the crowds were pretty heavy. They felt a lot heavier than they normally feel at the end of January. I do think that part of that was the pressure of the week before all the Travelmation agents rolled in. It was like 40 degrees. And so I do think that weekend, like a lot of Florida residents with their annual passes were like, let's go outside. Let's go to Disney World. But yeah, it was definitely a lot more crowded than I had expected it to be.
Yeah, that is surprising, but we are definitely seeing aberrant crowd patterns. So I guess that's setting the tone for what 2025 may look like. So there may be slow times that should be busy and vice versa. Why don't we dive in, Joe, to the 5 things that you recommend from this trip? You were really good. I listened to most, but not yet all of the trip reports that you put out at just trying things that we don't always get to try. And that was what I did last trip as well. And you kind of continue that tradition and then some. So start with the one that I'm most interested about, Takumi Tei. Is that how you say it?
Yes, I think you got that correctly. Actually, Leslie, why don't we start? I typed out the quote from the pre-email that they sent me the night before we went to Takumi Tei. I went with a friend, Jeremy, shout out to you, and we went to eat there. That was my first night there after I had landed. But Leslie, please, for the class, read out what they put in the email.
Okay, it says, we would like to clarify that we are neither Teppan Edo Hibachi nor Shikisai sushi restaurants.
Leslie, I kid you not, that sentence appears 3 times in that email. The first version is in larger font, highlighted. Obviously, they have a lot of trouble with this. So, Takumi Tei, not the hibachi or sushi restaurants. Shikisai, I think technically you should call it izakaya, but let's not split hairs. It is a set menu, $250 experience, which is why, of course, people have the issues. It is a 7-course meal, 6 courses including desserts. So Leslie, tell us a little bit about what you can expect in the set menu, like what they tell you on the website.
So it's an omakase menu, which means I leave the details up to you. So that's interesting. I want to know what that means in practice when you get to it. And the menu changes at the restaurant every 3 months or so. So I doubt people are eating there more often than every 3 months. So it's different, I'm sure, every time. But it is a set menu, like you said, 7 courses with sub courses. So sounds like a lot of food, even for $250.
Yeah, my quick review is Victoria and Albert's, I think, is $350. I'm never going to go back there, probably for the rest of my life, or it'll have to be at least a decade. Did not really feel like I got $350 worth of an experience. Takumi Tei, I would definitely go back. I'm already scheming to try to see if I could convince my wife to go back, especially because they changed the menu. Omakase is a term, Leslie, I actually learned it from the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi, which is a really old documentary. I mean, it was fairly early in the streaming era, but it's a chef in Japan who does sushi, and his only menu is an omakase menu. And when I leave the details up to you in that sentence is the chef. And so with these omakase set menus, you don't get to choose anything. There are no substitutions unless it's allergy related. And so you are at the chef's whim. And these menus rotate about every few months, as you mentioned, at Takumi Tei, but you kind of have no control over what's going to come out to your plate. Now, there's a plant-based option, that works for allergies or for if you're vegetarian or vegan, but there's also a meat-based option, which, most people get. But there are accommodations if you have dietary needs, but they're both $250. Now, when you say that there are sub-courses within the 7 courses, what I mean by that is there are, one of the courses is actually 7 small plates. And so we got a big plate with 6 small bowls in it and a medium-sized bowl in the middle. And so there's just a lot of stuff like that just throughout the meal. The first course, it's actually 3 courses. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it was a soup and 2 dishes or something like that. So it's miso soup and 2 dishes. All the food was excellent. Leslie, I can't remember. Did I say in the trip report all the foods that I typically never eat that I force myself to eat during this?
You mentioned a couple, but I don't remember. So refresh your recollection. This might be too adventurous for me. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Well, I don't know because it's not necessarily foods that normal people don't eat, but kind of 2 of my top 3 most hated foods: eggplant, never eat that; mushroom, I never eat mushrooms. I'm just not a fan. And then this is more Asian, but daikon, which is a white radish, I typically avoid eating that as well. Anyway, was paying $250, insisted on eating it all. I did not tell my wife I was going, took a picture of the mushroom I ate. I mean, it was not a small mushroom. It It wasn't like a, one of those small mushrooms that they cut up. It was like a big chunk, almost like a branch of mushroom. All right. I'll post a picture up. And I sent the picture to my wife, and she's like, "Who are you?" But I ate it. The mushroom was the hardest one. I ate that really fast. The eggplant was actually okay. I typically hate eggplant, but I did not mind it, and the texture was fine. But I don't love mushroom. That being said, everything tasted really good. I'm not just saying this because I paid $250 for it. Like, I would not eat that mushroom. Like, I wouldn't order that mushroom. But when that mushroom was part of the menu, I didn't mind it. And they really did a good job, I think, of mixing all the flavors. They tell you, like, eat in this order, for the 7-course plate, or like the sushi at the end, or sashimi at the end. Sushi and sashimi, they're like, eat it in this order. And their recommendations were very good. And so I really appreciated that. And the dessert at the end, a hoji cha, which is a type of green tea cake, very good as well. So overall, the entire meal. So the only stuff that I left behind, and I do remember saying this on the trip report, was I left behind some whipped cream because it's too much whipped cream for me. But other than that, cleared everything off my plate like a good boy who is trying to, clean his plate off.
Very good, Joe. Lessons for our children. So do as Joe did this time and try some new things. But yeah, that sounds difficult. I mean, I can imagine, especially in Orlando, there are a lot of guests for whom that lineup menu wise would just not work. So like I personally don't eat any raw fish. Like, I eat a lot of Japanese food, but I don't do sushi and sashimi that's raw. So that would take a course down for the count for me.
That's 2 courses. Actually, that's
it's 2
and change. Yeah, don't go
wow.
then. For those of you who do eat raw fish, the sashimi course, there's a sashimi course that is towards the beginning, and then there was a sushi course towards the end. I thought they were both excellent. And so, they also added like a little bit of wasabi and stuff like that. Anyway, it was really well done. Oh, the one thing that was crazy, and you would, well, I don't know, I feel like any red-blooded American would enjoy this, is with the sashimi course, there were these brown like cubes that looked like Jello with them, and I was like, what are these? They were gelatin soy sauce cubes. And so when you ate them, they like basically turned to soy sauce in your mouth. It's like the greatest thing I have eaten in my entire life. I would probably just eat those if I could. I mean, very salty, obviously. So I ended up I ended up realizing I had to do half cubes at a time with each piece of sashimi. But yeah, pretty cool. And, usually stuff like that is just gimmicky. But man, if I wouldn't buy gelatinous soy sauce cubes if I could off the street, because those were good.
Amazing. That's like what you do these kind of experiences for, is for unique little like bits and pieces like that really are memorable, that are not going to happen in your, down the street Japanese takeout place or whatever. So cool, Joe. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I may never get to experience it. I hope that you get to go back with your wife one of these days, and that she makes you eat your mushrooms. So very, very good. All right, well, let's move along.
She will. Oh, sorry. One last thing. It's really important. Okay, Leslie.
Okay.
Very, very important. Diet Coke, regular price, like $5 or $6 or whatever. Regular, like, table service price, $5 or $6 or whatever. Unlimited refills. At some of these fancy restaurants in like New York and stuff like that, you order a Diet Coke and they give you like a tiny 6-ounce bottle, and like that's it. I just want everybody to know out there, if you go to this $250 a plate restaurant, you can get your Diet Coke for $6 and have as many as you want. I went to the bathroom many times during that meal just because I was, getting my money's worth of Diet Coke. So, I drank at least $20 worth of Diet Coke. So anyway, continue.
Well done. All right. Well, let's turn to some of the experiences on rides. So you had, I think, a similar take to Country Bear Jamboree as I did. So this was your first time experiencing it. What did you think?
Yeah, so this is number 4 on my list of recommendations. Before I talk about what I think, I did want to give you a moment to just wax poetic about the original version, since you loved it so much. I know this is probably the 5th time we've done it on the podcast, but who knows when we'll get to do this in the future. So, Leslie, give us a 1-minute sermon on Country Bear Jamboree, the original.
I mean, the OG is just weird and wonderful. The kind of stuff that Disney can't and won't make anymore. My favorite, Mama Don't Whoop Little Buford, RIP. So I really do appreciate that. If you do want to see versions of this, obviously it still exists in Japan. Some of the songs are in Japanese, which is even weirder. But yeah, I love the original version, and it's there are very few things that are like fully left from our childhood, and getting to experiencing that with my own kids was really, really special. But that said, and I think you'll agree with this, the new version I liked, right? What'd you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's on my recommend list. So basically, what they've done, if you guys don't know, is they updated. I mean, Leslie, the first thing I noticed is the last time I went to Bear Jamboree, I think it was with you in 2019 because I missed getting to see it before the original version closed. But the last time I went, even in 2019, I was just when they were singing, I was like, I'm having trouble hearing the words from like this particular bear and like this one. I'm just like not sure what's going on. So the first thing I noticed when I went in there is the sound quality has definitely improved. You can hear everything. It's clear. It all sounds great. I also thought that the animatronics had improved. Like I can't remember, but one of the bears is doing like a fiddle solo, and then some smoke starts coming out of the fiddle. I don't remember that may have existed before, but just looking at the animatronic, either to me it was like either they updated it or it was so fluid that they added something new to it, but it looked really fluid, like much more fluid than I expect of 1970s animatronics. So that's the first thing that stood out to me. It was much more polished than the original version.
Yeah, my understanding is they took the animatronics, I mean, down to the animatronic version of like taking a house down to the studs. So I think there was a lot of things that were new or refreshed or rebuilt. So yeah, I agree. The quality of the animatronics is definitely much improved, the reliability, and then the sound for sure. When was Country Bear originally created? I mean, what was the technology to record music compared to what we have today? I mean, it's so many generations beyond what they had. So good. I'm glad you enjoyed the show. Your kids haven't seen it yet, so we'll wait for their review as well.
Yeah, I think the smart thing that they did was all the music now is basically Disney hits. And I thought that was pretty smart. There's some funny moments as well that I really enjoyed, but I thought that was smart because they can keep the nostalgia from our childhoods, Leslie. But without those Disney hits, it's like tough to like. You brought the kids for Mama Don't Whip Buford, and like the kids are like, what is this song? Like, what's even happening right now? Whereas if they're gonna sing stuff like Kiss the Girl, or can't even remember what songs they use. I mean, the one that everyone knows is the Shakira song from Zootopia, Try Everything. But with those familiar songs, it's going to be much better to get the kids in. And I will say, I did have a huge pang of nostalgia because the big game heads, like the moose and stuff on the wall, those are the first animatronics like I actually remember seeing. And I just remember as a kid just being like so amazed and just staring up in awe at these animal heads talking, like these deer heads talking to me and moving and blinking, and like it looked like they were emoting. And so it was really cool to go back there. And now I feel like I can bring my kids, and hopefully, I mean, they're probably too old to be amazed by that, but I really love the animatronics in that attraction.
That's funny because those loom very large for me as well. Going as a child, like I remember those specific animatronics so much, and so much so, trivia fact for folks who ride Winnie the Pooh at Disneyland, that's where the old Country Bear Jamboree used to be at Disneyland, and they have preserved those animal heads in part of the Winnie the Pooh ride. As you exit, right before you sort of enter the last room, if you turn around and look up behind you on the ride vehicle, you'll see them hanging there. So they still loom large, even though the attraction is gone at Disneyland. That's why I'm really glad it was preserved at Walt Disney World. I think it's important. Certain attractions have gone away at one park, but keeping it at another park. I mean, I'm glad we still have Mr. Toad at Disneyland. I'm glad we're going to still have, the Rivers of America, things like that at Disneyland, even as things change at Disney World. And then, of course, vice versa. In this situation, it's been preserved mostly at Walt Disney World.
Tower of Terror at Disney World as well. Yeah, that's a nice Easter egg. So, if you listen to episode 356, when to visit Disneyland in 2025, and you end up going, then definitely make sure you turn around at the end of Winnie the Pooh. All right, going to take a quick break and then go to the last three things that I will recommend. All right, Leslie. So number 3, it's been big news. who knows whether they'll stick around. I do feel like they're going to stick around. Single rider lines at Remy's Ratatouille Adventure and Rise of the Resistance, I got to try them for the first time. I definitely would recommend them. Rise took me about 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. That's to get onto the attraction. You bypass the Ray briefing scene, and then you bypass the transport, but then you go straight into the place where you load into interrogation. And, remember, Leslie, years ago when the ride started, there were two lines that you could go to after the hangar room. And we used to always say, do you remember which side we used to always say to go?
Now I
50-50
don't.
chance.
Hold on. I'm like trying to remember. I think you go to the right on that one. No?
We said go left. Or I think we said, who knows? Because it doesn't matter anymore.
Okay.
Right? But I think we said to go left. Sometimes you have just like sound bites in your head. I have a sound bite of you saying go left in my head. So that's why I think it's go left. But, I'm sure there's many other things that you can go left on when there are two lines. But now you can't choose. And if you're a single rider, you are sent to the left side, and then the main groups are on the right side, and then they pair single riders up. So the 30 minutes, that's like my butt was in the seat of the ride vehicle at the 30 minutes. I even kept timing through the interrogation room and stuff. So that's pretty good for Rise of the Resistance, almost as good as Lightning Lane on a really bad day, I guess. And then Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, that was like only 19 minutes. It's a little bit weirder. They have those seats where it's basically 3 to a row. And so I think it makes sense for Remy's to be using the single rider and getting 3 people in each row. I said this elsewhere, but I do feel like they're trying to be a little bit more efficient. Anyway, single rider lines, 2 thumbs up. That's my third thing that I would recommend people check out.
Okay, so a couple of questions about single rider lines. So on Rise of the Resistance, do you miss, because you miss the transport, but do you miss the big scene where they're all the stormtroopers lined up against the backdrop as well?
You get walked through that scene.
Okay.
And they're like, don't stop. Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that the single rider entrance is, you have to go towards, basically towards the exit. It starts basically where the VIP tours, you'll see VIP guides waiting to pick up their guests, and or dads like me who let their kids take their lightning lanes and let their kids go on the attraction themselves. So basically where you're coming out and where people meet, that's where the single rider entrance begins. There was actually a sign by the main entrance, and then they directed me over there where I saw another person holding a sign. And you go backstage. So you go backstage and then sneak past Ray, and then go backstage again and sneak past the transport. And then when you got to the hangar room, they were like, don't stop, don't stop. They were like, single riders, keep going. I think they've gone back into being first order mean to people. So
Good. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you still get to see that room, because I feel like that's kind of a pivotal part of the experience, and not getting to see that feels like you really would get like only a fraction of the story. So that's good that it's included. And then question about Remy's. So it is that bench style seating that you can seat 3 across. Are they actually seating like 3 full size adults across? And is that weird? Because you kind of slide into people a little bit on that bench style seating.
It was okay. I am guessing that they use their discretion a little bit. And if it's going to be tight for 3 people to be on a bench, they're not going to send a single rider for that. And then Rise of the Resistance, of course, the seats are set, so that's a little bit better. The other thing I noticed, like not single rider, but Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, they were pairing up groups of 2 and making them sit 4 to a row. So I really do feel like they're trying to be more efficient overall.
I mean, that makes sense. And they have been experimenting with a few more single rider lines at Disneyland as well. So this may be something they're trying to do across both coasts, which I'm glad to see, because otherwise it's just wasted space and people wait longer. And, maybe this is necessitated by the addition of Lightning Lane Premier Pass, right? They got to make more space for the regular guests because they're selling all of the space for everybody else. We'll see. All right. We got 2 more things we got to talk about, Joe. So 2 other things that you recommend for this trip.
All right, oldie but a goodie. I just feel like we haven't talked about this for a long time. I went to Pandora for the first time in a couple years, rode Flight of Passage, rode Navi River Journey, just wandered around Pandora a little bit. I highly recommend it. I was telling a friend, I hope that this new Monsters Inc. land, RIP Muppet Vision 3D. By the way, I did go to Muppet Vision 3D. It is so good. Please, if you're going to be at Walt Disney World before June 7th, and I know you won't be, Leslie, and I feel very sad for you, it is such a well done attraction. And when you know it's going, you pay attention even more and notice the details even more. And so please go visit Muppet Vision 3D. That was an aside. But Pandora, the attention to detail in both Flight of Passage, Navi River Journey, and the land itself, it's very well done. I feel like it's top-notch Disney. And I don't know if that was Joe Rohde. I don't know if that's the Imagineers that were working with him. But when I'm thinking about the new Cars land, when I'm thinking about the new Monsters University, Monsters Inc. land in Hollywood Studios, I'm like, if you do it like you did Pandora, something, again, as we've said many times, you don't care about, or most people don't care about, it'll be a home run. Because you just kind of forget like what a home run Pandora is when you haven't been there for a while. So it was really great to go back and check out those attractions in the land in general.
Yeah, I think people have kind of taken it for granted now that it's been around, a decade or more, and it was groundbreaking. It still remains really cool to see. So it's fun when you get to go into it with somebody who's never seen it before and see it with fresh eyes, because it is that good. And we do it's settled into the pantheon now for those of us who visit often. So, all right, final thing, Joe, last thing that you recommend from your trip that you experienced.
Last thing is Magic Kingdom After Hours. Had an amazing time during that. It's an expensive ticket, $185, but if you are in Florida, like for a conference, or you just have a day or two or whatever, forget the 1-day ticket, forget the 2-day ticket even, just get these after-hour tickets. I had a client the week before go to Hollywood, actually multiple clients go to Hollywood Studios After Hours. They had a lot of fun there. You get popcorn, you get treats, like ice cream treats, and you get soda and water, and you get low lines for the whole entire night. Like 14 minutes at Tron, 10 minutes Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, walked on to Haunted Mansion, it ended up being 5 minutes to Winnie the Pooh, but it's because they were loading slowly. Lots of stuff like that. TTA, of course, People Mover was a walk-on. Buzz Lightyear was a walk-on all night. Pirates was a walk-on all night. Peter Pan looked like it had a low line. Just so much fun to be had. You have that mix-in period from 7 to 10, like the first 3 hours if you need. And my friend and I, we went to Jungle Cruise and Haunted Mansion during the mix-in period. We didn't get there till 9, and we went to both Jungle Cruise and Haunted. Actually, we didn't start riding until 9:30, and we got both Jungle Cruise and Haunted Mansion done. I think this is probably the one trip report you haven't heard yet, Leslie, but I was saying Jungle Cruise After Dark, probably one of my favorite Disney experiences. I do not know what gets into people's minds and the skipper minds when it's nighttime at Jungle Cruise, but you just gotta, I'm sure you can get duds here and there, but it is just, I don't know. The energy was off the charts. It just felt like everyone was moving at 110 miles per hour. It was a crazy boat ride, and it was a lot of fun.
That's good to hear. They do get kind of punchy at that hour and can get a little saucier. So I'm glad you had a good time on that one. So I know there's something that you don't recommend from your trip, so we should talk about that now too.
Oh my gosh, my one don't recommend. Okay, everyone, if you're It's a Tough to Be a Bug fan, I apologize. Okay, I went in there.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I tried to be open about it. Okay, remember when you all sent us to Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, we tried to be open and we loved it. Okay, so just proof that we can be objective. It's Tough to Be a Bug, horrible, traumatizing. Spiders dropping from the ceiling, bad smells being shot in your face, fog everywhere. It's awful. The crazy things sticking into your back. Like, why are we doing this to children? I do not know why. Everyone in the audience seemed to love it. I don't know. Maybe I'm the crazy one, but I hated this attraction so much. Cannot wait for it to be Zootopia themed, because what I had forgotten about, just to give them a little bit of credit, is the Flick animatronic, the grasshopper dude animatronic, whatever his name is. Those are great animatronics. So, you bring some of that in there with Zootopia. I feel like you can have a lot of fun in that show. It's a great space. The effects were done really well on a technical sense, but in terms of do I want to be assaulted with noise and smells when I'm trying to enjoy myself sense, not good. Just not good at all. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10. Do not recommend.
Yeah, it's awful. I haven't done it probably in about 8 years, I think, because you'll remember this, Joe. A long, long time ago, early in our blogging lives, we wrote for a site called Traveling Mom and Traveling Dad. And we had retreats at Walt Disney World, and they gave us assignments of stories to write about. And for whatever reason, like my very first Traveling Mom retreat, I think, I got the assignment to write a whole story about It's Tough to Be a Bug. Like, how can you write an entire blog article about It's Tough to Be a Bug? And we all had to go see it together, those of us who were assigned it. And we all kind of left like, what on earth are we going to be writing about? And how can we even possibly remotely recommend this? It's so, so bad. So that has been forever traumatizing to me. And I don't think I've gone back since.
One shout out, and I'd totally forgotten this. It gets you close up to the Tree of Life for looks at some of the carvings in the Tree of Life that I frankly had forgotten existed. And there's so much, again, I don't know, again, maybe it's just Joe Rohde, but just like Pandora, there's so much care and attention put into the Tree of Life that I really appreciate. Man, love the queue. Just walk through the queue and then be like, hey, can I get out of here? Or just when they open the doors, just walk straight in, walk straight out the other side. Because I've been the Tree of Life trails, there's a term for them, but the Tree of Life pathways, I think is what they're called, on the backside of the Tree of Life. I've enjoyed those. It's a quiet place to go in Animal Kingdom, especially if, you know, your kid needs just some quiet and like some time away. And so this is like that, but it's on the other side. So, you know, obviously tree is 360 degrees around. So shout out for that, but no shout out for It's Tough to Be a Bug. I'm sorry if you love it. Feel free to leave your comments, youtube.com/@DisneyDeciphered. They were like, no videotaping. And I was like, thank goodness. Don't want to traumatize anyone with this on the YouTubes. But yeah, leave your comments. Send us your messages if you love it. But we apologize. We do not love it. All right, one last thing before we get to Disney do's and don'ts. I forgot to do this at the top, but I did want to give a shout out and a hello to Kelsey, Nicole, and also to Jamie. We always say, I think, on this podcast, I think this happened to you at least once, Leslie. Please, if you see us in the parks, say hello. Nobody ever takes us up on it. But Kelsey, Nicole, Jamie, thank you for taking me up on it. They also happen to be fellow Travelmation agents as well, so I'm not sure if that made a difference. Actually, I had another friend and listener who was in the park who we were trying to meet up, but you know, we were texting, so that's different. But if you just see me randomly in the park, I mean, Kelsey was straight up like, you know, I'm just walking by and she's like, Joe? And so it's a little awkward at first, but then, you know, we all love Disney, so it's totally fine. Feel free to say hello in the parks, unless I'm yelling at my children, in which case, please do not videotape and do not put it on the internet.
No parent shaming, but yeah, glad you got to meet some folks. And I guess I need to give a shout out to you, Joe, because you're too modest to do this yourself. But you won a major award at the Travelmation Retreat this year. I think you were the top seller for Walt Disney World Vacations. And I know a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, contributed to making that happen. So congratulations, well deserved. You're killing it. I love that you've gone into this. In fact, I just referred my aunt to you this week for booking her own vacations.
That's right. That's right.
Keeping it all in the family.
Yeah, not Disney, but hey, we do it all. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it was very humbling to receive that award. I was very excited. I'd be lying if I was saying that I wasn't trying to at least be in the running for top Disney sales and being able to be the top seller in Travelmation for Walt Disney World with so many great agents. That was a real honor and really humbling to do that. Shout out to, there are a lot of listeners who reach out and become clients and then become friends who have contributed to that. So if you're our listener who has reached out in the past, whether it was Disney World or anything, really, thank you. I really appreciate that. So it was a lot of fun getting that award. It was a nice little surprise.
Well done, Joe. I'm proud of you. And I didn't even contribute to it this year because I didn't book a Walt Disney World vacation through you this year, but 2025 awaits. We'll have a repeat for this time next year. So well done. Let's close this out with our traditional Disney do or don't. What do you have for us?
Okay, I have a Disney don't. It is sort of tongue-in-cheek, but maybe not really. And my Disney don't is, if you are two adult grown men, don't go to the princess meet and greets as two adult grown men, especially two kind of socially awkward, introverted adult young men. It was Uh, my friend and I, sorry, buddy, but gonna call you out here. Right at the beginning of After Hours, we were like, oh, let's see how long the character meet and greet for the princesses are. Which, by the way, good time to meet the princesses. If your kids can stay up late enough, the line was short. It was like 5 minutes. But then we had to talk to Tiana and Rapunzel, and we were just like awkward middle schoolers cracking stupid jokes with these grown women who have the patience of saints. They never broke character. They were excellent. But the reason why I say two grown men should not do that is because I'm just so embarrassed of everything that happened during those 5 minutes that I would love to block out for the rest of my life, Leslie. But I kid you not, 56 pictures from the shadow boxes from that interaction. 56 pictures of talking to Tiana and Rapunzel. Just gonna have to burn them all in the trash.
So awkward. I mean, I find it awkward as a woman. And so, yeah, I can only imagine with the two of you together. So definitely kudos to the cast members. They earned their Disney pay that night putting up with you guys.
Yeah, they're just like, what are these losers doing, man? Like that's what must have been going through their head, but they didn't break character at all. And it's a funny memory, but also I don't think I'm ever doing that again. So, we weren't even drinking, Leslie. Actually, it'd probably be worse if we were drinking because, don't bother cast members when you're inebriated or whatever. But we were just stone cold sober, and just a couple of weirdos talking to Tiana and Rapunzel, who were great. Again, shout out to the cast members.
That's fantastic. So I'm glad you're further memorializing that awkward moment here for posterity on our podcast. Thank you, Joe.
Yes, the 56 pictures that shall never see the light of day. Maybe I'll ask for permission to put this out on YouTube. Which, as a reminder, as we close things out, we are on YouTube now, youtube.com/@DisneyDeciphered. Please check us out there. Like, subscribe, comment. We really appreciate it. And you can also find old episodes of Disney Deciphered anywhere you find audio podcasts. Leslie, where can people find your work on the internet? You're writing about Disney and travel in general with kids.
Tripswithtykes.com for you Disneyland folks. I'm going to sneak it in. I got 2 new posts this week with strategies for rope drop up that are very, very Leslie geeky deep dive. So enjoy that. And I'm Trips with Tykes everywhere on social media. Joe, where can folks find you?
You can find me as a Joe Flies all over social media. And if you're looking to book a Disney vacation or any vacation like your aunt, Leslie, Joseph Chung at Travelmation.net. I would love to help you out. And thanks again to all my clients out there. I really appreciate each and every one of you. All right, so that does it for this episode. It was a lot of fun. It was a really fun trip. I think not having the stress of worrying about a kid did help me to have a little bit more fun. So all of you Disney adults out there, go out there and do it. Just don't go talking to the princesses without a kid. You'll probably regret it. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening to this. And other than that, Leslie, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And I will see you never having to ride It's Tough to Be a Bug ever again.
Thanks, Joe.